Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle live show and podcast. On tonight's show, our firepower is often a hot topic of debate. Well, who better to invite onto the show than Notts County's all-time record club goal scorer, Les Brad. The FA Trophy draw, it's home and it's against Wrexham, and we turn the spotlight on a possible trophy and playoff clash at the end of the season. Stay tuned, it's far from straightforward. Been ploughing through all the various date permutations in May and June earlier this afternoon. Who was at Halifax? Both of us, me and Les, on Saturday. Who got wet? Both of us, I'm sure. Who's going to Dover for Tuesday night's game? Not so many of us. I will be going. We'll probably be wet again. All this and more on our live show tonight. Lots of you have already been sending in messages. Good evening, one and all, to Gary Wardle, Lee Brearley, RM, Chris Gosling, David Shorter. We'll be reading out some of your messages very shortly. Les, you were there. Well, I've got to say you went in style because you went on Acco's coach, didn't you? And you had a bit of an old boys reunion with a very famous family from the Halifax area. Bob Worthington, left back from the 70s at Notts County.
Yeah, during the course of a season, I do like to travel on Acco's coach, or at least a couple of games. Great set of lads. You know the lads there. They very seldom miss a game. Travel all over the country. The coach is leaving at 1 o'clock tomorrow to go to Dover, and I don't think they'll be back before 2 and 3. But some great banter on the coach, and I learned something on Saturday that I'd never knew was possible, and that is Paul Smith, Smithy to everybody. I'm sure they would recognise him. I believed he'd never missed a Notts game. He when he got married, you know, he told he had 2 children, 2 daughters, and told them if they were to get married and it was on a Notts day when they were playing, he wouldn't be there. But I did find out that he missed a match at Boreham Wood away when we played in the cup. He booked a holiday commencing on the Sunday, and the game got put back for TV, and yeah, he was in all sorts of trouble. He took a lot of abuse on the coach yesterday. But no, I use the Halifax trip. It's not too far away, and it's a great chance to meet up with Bob Worthington and talk about old times. And yeah, we had a nice couple of pints before the game, reliving some happy times when we both played at Notts.
Were you worried before the game and on the way up that it was going to take place? Because I wasn't so sure, to be honest. I went there in hope more than anything. And I guess pleasantly surprised because we got it in. But I have to say, about an hour or so before kickoff, it did not look good.
Well, I'd contacted Bob on the Friday to say, you know, we've got a pitch inspection here. It's come through that there's a pitch inspection at 8:30. Is it bad up there? He said, no, we've not had any rain all week, and he couldn't see any issues with the pitch. They spent quite a lot of money recently on verti-draining and getting it up to scratch. Maybe because they play rugby on it, there's an issue, but he couldn't see any problems at all. And he said the forecast was for some rain coming in the afternoon, but he didn't see any problems. So that was fine by me. I thought, well, I'm going, and of course on the trip up there, I don't think we saw any rain at all till we virtually hit Halifax. And then when I got in the pub, and I said to the girl behind the bar there, I says, "Has it been raining very long?" She says, "All morning." So I thought, oh dear, this isn't looking good. But it wasn't too long before the information came out that the game was definitely on. I thought the pitch played pretty well. It was bobbly, bumpy, but it wasn't dangerous. I've played on far worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was most important that we got the game out of the way. Good. I mean, obviously, you are talking hardcore of people that went along there. It's the first time I've been up to Halifax for a long time. I have to say, probably 30 years or so. And I mean, where are you with the trophy? Because I want to talk through fixtures now, because this is quite interesting, and undoubtedly it may affect our both our running and our playoffs. Well, I think we know that. So it's Wrexham. That game, I doubt, will be taking place on the Saturday, on the 12th of March. Either a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon, I would think, would be favourite. Forest are at home to Reading. After that, if we were to get through, the semi-final is on April the 2nd, which is the weekend when we should be going to Southend, which I'm sure a lot of us would like to be having a weekend away in Southend. If we get past Wrexham, that game will be off. That game will be off because that's the scheduled semi-final weekend. And here's the interesting part. If we get through to the final, the league season finishes at Maidenhead on a Sunday, May the 15th. The FA Trophy, as it stands, is scheduled to be played a week later, on Sunday, May the 22nd. So that's a week after the end of the final weekend of regular National League season fixtures. Now, we finish in top spot, and then we go down to Wembley. What a lovely way to finish the season, Les. However, people always talk about options A's, B's and C's. Option B, which you may argue is more likely at the minute, we are in the playoffs. Now, I don't know whether these are going to change. I've tried to corroborate this with the National League today. They're due to start, as best I can piece it together, on midweek, May the 25th to May the 26th. So you are looking, if you finish 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, playing 3 days after going to Wembley, because Wembley's a Sunday, it's not even a Saturday for the trophy final. And the final of the playoffs scheduled to be June the 5th. So you're potentially looking, if you finish 4th, 5th, 6th or 7th, and you are in the final of the trophy, you will play 4 games in 2 weeks. What do you make of that schedule? It's a potential schedule, clearly, Les. What do you make of that?
Well, certainly going back to my days, we would be delighted with that schedule. Playing 2 matches a week. It cut down on the training through the week. But at the same time, we're on a high from winning matches. If you win on a Saturday, you can't wait for the next game. And as I said before, I feel a bit sorry for the lads in what they've experienced through January with those 3 games. They were on a really good run. I think, was it 6 games we won on the trot? And
4 in the league, 2 in the trophy.
Yeah, and then to go to Kings Lynn and all, you've worked all week, you're up and ready for it, and then it gets called off. And then the following week, was it Dover? Travel down the day before. You stay overnight, and then you're told, an hour and a half before kick-off, it's off again. So all that work that you've done all the week to play, it's off again. So not playing matches is certainly not helped us. And then the following week against Barnet on the Friday, on the day of the match. So I think if you're on it, if you're playing well, and you cannot wait to play. And so I don't see any issue at all with playing a couple of matches a week. And Ian has looked at the trophy as a way of making sure that all the players in every position are getting a game. We saw on Saturday, I think Halifax didn't play far off the first team. I'm not sure whether that's what I heard. We got 7 changes to the team, and they all came in and did a really good job. What I will say is when faces change, it does become difficult because you get used to playing with players. You get used to their habits, how they pass the ball, where it's going to go, and when that changes, it's not easy to slot in. But certainly Saturday, I thought they did very well. So no, I don't see a problem in playing, if it boils down to it, 2 matches a week.
Well, we've certainly got 2 matches a week in terms of National League commitments for the foreseeable future. Got plenty of observations being sent in, many of our regulars. Gary Wardle is not optimistic about Dover tomorrow. What will be different this time with the recent conditions and the impending inclement weather? He's asking about recent formation changes to a back four. We'll pick up on that in a moment, Gary. Lee Brearley, evening all. Looking forward to the podcast and hopefully a good run now in the league and cup. RM, I think a back four suits Kel Roberts better. Gary Wardle, I agree and have been thinking that for a while. We were becoming too predictable. It's not for every game, but has its uses. RM, we certainly need a plan B and even a plan C. Chris Gosling, back four, brilliant for a lot of games, but there will still be times when we'll start with 5 at the back. David Shorter, Dover won't be a picture of playing out from the back so much, so stick to the 4-3-3 and change it around depending on the match situation. Gary Wardle, yes, we have long advocated at least giving it a try, and it has coincided with some of our fringe players turning out to be better than expected. David Shorter, can't make Dover due to COVID. Please give them a cheer from me. Hope you recover quickly and make a full recover from COVID, David. Chris Gosling, yeah, we certainly have, Chris. We've deliberated 4 at the back, 3 at the back, 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1. You name it, it has been discussed at length on this platform many times. Paul Smith, Eli's form will enforce a formation change. Eli's best position is left of a 3. If he has played his way into the team, which he has, it must be from the left forward position only. So 4-3-3. What else have we got coming in? Chris Gosling, Francis is showing to be a perfect foil with tenacity and range of passing, meaning Palmer isn't doing all the legwork, hence him popping up with a goal against Barnet. Shaman Talk, awful pitch conditions, glad we are out of the trophy. Might have been a slightly different reply if you'd won. Ian Birchinall, evening all, couldn't miss 3 on the trot, so glad to make it, albeit late. There's a debate going on here with Ian Birchinall, Chris, Gary, 1 or 2 others with regards to the fixture schedule. I may be wrong here. Notts were due to be away in any case on that Saturday at Stockport. So when we have this kind of rotation, for want of a better phrase, when we're drawn both way, I may be wrong. But I think kind of Forest have first dibs on the Saturday. They're home to Reading. I don't see that being chosen by telly. They may well have already been chosen already. So I would be thinking Friday night or Sunday afternoon. A quick poll on our flock. Would we prefer, if it's moved, would we prefer Friday night or Sunday afternoon? Les, what would you fancy, Trophy? If it's to be moved, would you, normally these things would go to a Sunday, but we have played a Friday night. We have actually played a Saturday evening, haven't we? But I doubt that would be the case, given Wrexham would bring a few, and I'm sure that there would be security issues from the police. Would you be a Friday night man or a Sunday afternoon?
Well, I haven't checked the fixtures. Is there a midweek match that following week?
Very good point. So you'd rather go Tuesday, Friday, yeah, rather than a Sunday, Tuesday, from a playing perspective.
Yes, I would imagine that Stockport's got to be pulled in, and they might be short on availability. That might be available for them that week. I don't know, but so it could well be that match that we should have been playing that Saturday against Stockport. It may be that they try and arrange it the following week, in which case Friday would be the ideal date, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point actually, because you couldn't really play Sunday, Tuesday, I don't think.
No.
So you'd have to move I suppose technically it's possible if whatever the game is could be moved to a Wednesday for Sunday, Wednesday. But I personally, I have a preference for a Friday night, and I think it makes a fair degree of sense, because you kind of want to max out the best possible recovery period. I would imagine for your league game, not for the trophy game?
I'm pretty sure that if you did a survey with the players, they would 99% be asking for Friday evening. It gives them a longer weekend to recover, ready for the next game. And there's good atmosphere on a Friday evening as well, as opposed to a Sunday afternoon quiet day. No, I think they would prefer Friday evening.
Yeah, it'll probably end up being Saturday and Forest move, but Lee Brearley says Friday, Dale Pike Friday, Pythagorean Friday, Chris Gosling Sunday afternoon for me. Friday would be a bit tricky. Kane Porter definitely Friday. Jurgen Halligan Sunday for Jurgen. Ian Birchinall Sunday. David Shorter Friday night, making the point, reiterating the point that you've made, Les. Paul Huskerson Sunday afternoon because of work commitments. David Shorter, ever the optimist, says we might have to get another rearranged game if Dover is off. Club have posted some information this afternoon for those of you who are planning to go down to Dover. I'm planning to go down on the train, and I'm stopping in the palatial delights, Les, of the Dover Travel Lodge for 35 quid. That's not bad. It's not bad, that 35 Dover Travel Lodge. Come back 9:30 on Wednesday morning.
Just before you go any further, are there any plans to have an inspection during the course of the day tomorrow?
Yeah. So what? Not to put some information out today, this afternoon, to say that they are in dialogue with Dover, unlike last time. That Dover have got a plan in place for an inspection if it is required, which will be made available and Notts will be aware of. Again, that didn't happen last time. So for those of us planning to make the journey, please keep an eye out on Notts and I suppose Dover's social media channels tomorrow. They're saying that the pitch is absolutely fine at the moment. Clearly, if there is a lot of heavy rain tomorrow, that may change the situation. So there's not a pitch inspection planned as it stands at the minute. But I think reading between the lines of that statement from Notts, there is a procedure in place for the referee to be arriving sometime before 6:30 and calling it off at 6:35. So keep an eye out.
It's interesting to me that following your podcast with the gentleman from the National League, Halifax seemed to be on the ball, and now Dover, where previously it was very much open-ended. There seems to be like a little bit more thought going into supporters travelling.
Hopefully so. I mean, obviously, Bromley, you do have to feel very sorry for a week before us. That game was called off 40 minutes before kickoff. Bromley gone all the way up there, and there was no advance notification, I believe, that the game was in doubt. But fair play, it does appear that in the majority of cases now, there is some more transparency, and that's got
can only be good.
Yeah, absolutely. David Shorter, Friday under lights, you can't beat it. Stuart Dakin, we play Solihull on the Tuesday prior, so this would be prior to the trophy weekend. No fixture week after Sunday for recovery. I wonder though whether we would slot the Stockport game in that midweek, because that would be the obvious time to do it, just to push it back 3 or 4 days, because obviously Stockport have got a trophy match as well. Plenty more coming in. Les, we often talk about firepower on this show, and there is a big debate about do we need more goal scoring ability? That has kind of been superseded a little bit with Eli Sam and of course Cairo Mitchell both getting on the score and Cairo Mitchell getting on the score sheet on Saturday. Where are you in the Notts debate? Currently the club is just outside the playoff positions. Do you think we're outside the playoffs because we're conceding too many or not scoring enough?
I think we're outside of the playoffs. Obviously, we've got a couple of games in hand, but I think we're outside of the playoffs because we've been missing what we got from Elisha Sam against Barnet, which wasn't a massive talent. It was a guy who wanted to show everybody that what he could do. There was an urgency about everything that he did, and he put pressure on the Barnet defence like I haven't seen all season. I don't think if that first goal that we scored, he chased that one down. This isn't a criticism of the other players. I just feel that he picked it up and he went out there on a mission to everything. He was going to chase everything and make himself a real handful, which he was throughout the time he was on that pitch. Not necessarily great ability, but a desire to go out and win the game. And I think a little bit of that rubbed off on each of the players. And if we can get more of that from them all, then we will be a lot stronger team.
Has Eli, for your perspective, played himself into a starting position in the lineup, for instance, tomorrow against Dover?
Absolutely, 100%. If I'd done what he did in that game against Barnet, and then I was out of the team, then I would go ballistic. I would want to know why I had been left out, and it'd have to be a good explanation. I understand why he came off on Saturday, because I think he's looking to preserve him for the Dover match, and I can fully understand that. So the squad is in a very healthy position at the moment. There are 20 plus players all competing for positions. None of them with the sulks, apparently, all with a desire to do well, and they're taking the opportunity when they come in there. And I think that is very good. There doesn't seem to be any moaning and groaning behind the scenes, or I'm left out, I'm sulking sort of thing. It's they all wish everybody to do well, don't they? And that's got to be good. All pushing for places.
That's Eli. Cairo got on the score sheet, gets the winner on Saturday. What about him?
He certainly impressed me in the early days when he was playing sort of on the left-hand side. He showed his pace, and I thought, given time, he will automatically come into the team. That hasn't quite happened. Maybe because Kyle Wotton and Ruben have been doing the job. They made it difficult for other players to come and get in there. But he came on Saturday, and I thought he did a good job. With regards to an automatic selection for Tuesday night, I'm not so sure about that. Ruben seems to have picked up a little bit of form. Kyle might have gone a bit quiet of late, but he's a real handful. I feel that we need just this to change it slightly at times, where we can get the ball up earlier up to Kyle Wotton, and particularly in the Grimsby game, the second half, we carried on. They did a really good job on us, pushed tight, and I think we should have tried to turn them a bit more and get the ball over the back, get it up to Kyle. But his goal against Barnet last week was top class. He did a good job against Halifax, leading the line. So I don't see that Kyle will be left out. You leave Ruben out. No, it's very, very high competition for places at the moment.
Okay, so the debate, as always, is it down to us not scoring enough? Are we conceding too many? Always sparks a lot of observations. Really, we concede too many. Stats show against other sides. Gary Wardle, all those crying out for an out-and-out striker, do they realise we have 3 players in double figures? Gary Wardle adds, it's been defensive problems for a considerable while. Kane Porter, we concede far too many, especially from set pieces. Chris Gosling, we're outside the playoffs because we haven't won enough games. David Shorter still believe too many concessions is the main problem. Paul Smith, yes, we do still need a striker. Cairo and Eli can't be trusted to produce week in, week out, and Kyle always has his barren runs. Also, you can always strengthen, others have. Wayne Wilkins, I think he's been out in Barcelona lives in Barcelona now. Two things to do. We have a squad that are more. Hang on, I've lost it now. Apologies. Oh, you're sending so many things in. Two things. We have a squad that are more than good enough. The squad needs to be utilised to its capabilities depending on who we're up against. Not well winning all those games in a row. We're pretty much the same team game in, game out. Eventually someone will suss out what's happened. Stuart Dakin need to start games better. Until Wrexham, we'd not scored in the first 30 minutes of any home game. Do what Arsenal did under Wenger. Kill games off in the first half. Don't play chess. A.D. Clark, evening. Do you feel Eli now has added pressure to perform and score to keep his place compared to Wootton, who would be unlikely to be dropped? Chris Gosling, be interesting to see what effect it has on Chesterfield losing Shimanga. Very bad injury. We obviously hope he makes a full recovery from that, but it did look quite serious. We have goals all around the team. They rely quite heavily on him. To Wayne Wilkins again, the potential to impact off the bench is key. Most goals are scored in the last 35 minutes. Using the squad and having fresh and some of the most impactful players in this period is vital. Gary Wardle, for any striker, even the best, if their supply is poor at any time, it affects them. Hence, we have at least 3 scorers. I do think, Les, when we look back a few years' time and you look at Carl Wootton, who has basically scored 1 in 2, 50 goals, 100 games, whatever the individual stats, that puts him a long way up Notts County's goal scorers lists and goals per game ratio. You were the club's all-time goal scorer. But people don't that doesn't guarantee you anything really in the eyes of the fans, does it? If you have 3 games and you don't score, it don't matter that you got 15 in the first 25 games, does it?
No, I hear the criticisms of Kyle, and for me, he's a fantastic lad. He wears that shirt with pride, and he wants to do so well. He's always battling up front, a lot of times on his own. He gets back to try and defend corners as well. You're always going to go through a barren spell when it just doesn't click for you, and even when you get chances, you don't take them. That's always going to happen. But like you say, his goals record for appearances is fantastic. But at the same time, players, what you mustn't forget, the players play at a level of football, and currently Kyle is playing in the 5th tier. Maybe if he was if he was scoring more goals, he wouldn't be with us. He'd be in 2 or 3 tiers higher up playing. So that's football.
Yeah, Paul Smith asks, Les, as a striker, Kyle hasn't had too many chances to score lately. What more would you want the team to do if you were him?
In the days that I played, the training sessions, we worked on delivery of ball into the box. It was slightly different in those days, 4-4-2. I had a couple of very good seasons with Tony Haitley. We were 2 up the front, and the ball came up to us. 1 dropped off, 1 went in the back. But it was all about getting the ball out to the wide men, John Nixon, Charlie Quickmore, and they had to deliver balls into the box. They were not taught to look for the pair of us in the box. They were taught to deliver 3 types of cross, 1 coming in at the near post, 1 a higher one to the far post, or one deeper to the 18-yard box. And then it was up to Tony, myself, whoever was playing up front, to make sure you attack those positions. And Jimmy Cyril's words, if you're not doing that, I'll find somebody that does. And that's how we attacked in those days. Now, the game has changed quite a lot since then, hasn't it? And there is a lot of football interchange of passing going on through the midfield and even around the penalty box. And, you know, a lot of goals are now scored with side foot tap-ins as opposed to headers. Be interesting to see an analysis on headed goals this time, you know, this day and age compared to the days, you know, that I played. I know last year I asked the analysis man on I was doing some work on Alzheimer's for Nottingham University, and I'd estimated that in the times that I played, the number of times I headed a ball would be between 15 and 35 times in a game. When the goalkeeper got it, he punted it down the pitch. Nowadays, that doesn't happen. And when I was absolutely amazed at this analysis, when it showed that the centre halves only headed the ball in the 90 minutes 12 times was the highest. And I was just amazed at that. And when I talked to the young lad that came in from Sunderland when we lost the three centre halves, you know, in the season when we played Alton and Woking, you know, he never experienced playing. If you remember, Woking just knocked high balls into the box when they got the 3 goals or the 4 goals, you know, and got knockdowns. He'd never played football. He'd never seen anything like that before. All he'd ever done was pass the ball about. There was no balls knocked up to fight. So we're living in different times, and yeah, it's a totally different game.
Formation, Les. We've played a 3 at the back for a long period of time, and it would appear to be Ian's preferred way of playing. There have been isolated examples when it switched to a 4. Ian and the players have both made specific mention that perhaps we're a little bit too predictable. We need to mix it up a little bit more. And this has kind of coincided with a change to a sort of a 4-2-3-1, you know, tweaks here and there. What's your take on the formation? Do you still view Ian's go-to as a 3, but at the minute is using a 4 more often?
I think he and Mike Doyle work very hard behind the scenes, analysing footage of ourselves and the team that we're going to play. I think they did a good job with Barnet on Tuesday night, noticing that they didn't have too many tall players, maybe not too much of a threat with high balls in the box. And we went about our work and we scored 6 goals. So a lot of that is going on behind the scenes, but it's still, as I say, I keep mentioning about Jimmy, and I'll never forget his words. You have to win the right to play. That means you have to win your battle. Yeah. And it was me against the centre half, and it was the full back against the winger, and that still has to happen. You know, and you went up to Halifax, and our winning goal, is that anything about football when Jaden Richardson goes down and he goes past one tackle, runs on? You know, that's a desire. That's not just an ability. That's a desire to go on and do that. And that is that's what I like to see. That's what wins matches. It's not football sometimes. It's that desire to go on and push that extra mile. And that was a fantastic run he made down there. And then pushed it out to Cal, didn't he, before he crossed?
Yes, and I think that, and I don't want to go into this debate at the moment, but you know, when we talk about quite a data-centric, statistic-centric approach, which is fine. And clearly, I'll tell you a story. Howard Wilkinson, when he was at Notts County, was kind of one of the very, very, very first coaches in English football. This was 1980, to use any form of statistics or data. What he did, he went to Nottingham University and he spoke to a lecturer there, and he offered a free ticket to 3 or 4 students. He said, and I want you to come and watch the game, sit in the stand, I'll give you a piece of paper, and I want you to mark down number of shots, on target, off target, number of crosses we get into the box, number of tackles, 6 or 7 incredibly basic and rudimentary statistics. This is 1980. Yeah, you probably still be coming to the end of your career. Maybe you'd have moved on from Notts a couple of years earlier. I was 18 years old at the time. That was probably he was one of the very, very first people to use any form of statistical data. That's how raw it was in 1980. As you said, the game has evolved, and now there is a huge amount of data, and clearly we as a football club use that extensively. But for me, there are still no metrics in existence yet that measure, you've used the word, desire, commitment, bravery. What is the statistical metric that measures bravery? Because you and I both know, Les, bravery is a very, very important part of the game. If there's a 6'8" centre half that's threatened to smash your head in and intimidate you during the game, probably don't bother you. But there'll be some opponents who think, right, I'm going to play out on the left wing. I don't want to be anywhere near him now. And this is all part of the game, isn't it? Emotion, absolutely, those sorts of things. And that will still happen today.
Absolutely. As I say, Jayden, what in the analysis of the game, he gets the ball there. He should be passing it into some. He's not supposed to go running down, beating 3 men, and that was a desire to go and win the game. And like you say, you can't find the stats for that. But if you can get enough players, we've seen it with Eli Barney. He's certainly got it. We've seen it with Jayden. He's certainly got it. If you've got 11 players, doesn't matter how well they play, if they've all got that desire, you're one tough team to play, and you won't lose many games. And I believe that's why Bromley are where they are.
Yes, absolutely.
In terms of natural ability, not much of it, but they make it very difficult for teams to play against them. They work very hard for each other, and you've got to take your hat off to them. There's no problem with that, and that's what we did with Jimmy. That's how we moved on. It was, the expectations of making sure you hadn't left anything out there, put everything into it.
I think in many respects it has been the case for many decades, and I suspect will continue to be so. Football teams and the way they play the game very much embody the characteristics and approach of the manager or the coach, don't they? Ian is a technical kind of coach, and we are a technical team. Bromley are, and this is not meant to be disparaging, because I think what they've done is remarkable. There is an element of blood and thunder to them. Very combative, very strong, very fit. Bodies on the line that kind of embody the spirit of Andy Woodman. Because I remember Andy, when we were down at Bromley, and all the Notts fans were down the side, and the Bromley dugout is kind of right in front of where all the Notts fans are, because the Notts fans are giving pelters to Andy Woodman, all sorts of abuse. And to be fair, he took it really well. He had a bit of a laugh, a bit of banter with them to diffuse it and all the rest of it. But Bromley kind of embodied the spirit of their manager. And I think that happens in many, many cases.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. that's not to take anything away from what Ian is doing with the football club. He is working very, very hard with that group of players, and I think they're doing really, really well. And I just hope that we've now won 2 matches on the trot. Hopefully we can get another win tomorrow night that brings us on to Eastleigh at home, and and we can be on another run again. And all things are looking good moving into March when those big games start to appear.
Plenty of comments coming in while we've been chatting away, Les. Gary Wardle. So many see players as isolated individuals, but it doesn't work that way in reality. Chris Gosling. Yaros, our keeper needs a few more games for that to help in terms of defensive cohesion. Things weren't perfect with Pato in the first 3 or 4 games either. I think we lost all 3, didn't we? Gary Wardle, wing-backs area, specialised position in being required to bomb up and down the line. If you're in the wrong place going forward or back, it spells trouble. Chris Gosling, 2 anchoring midfielders like Palmer and Francis allow wing-backs or full-backs to still get forward with a bit of protection. Ian Birchinall, if it's a 6'8" player, we'll put Dion on him. Gary Wardle, data should be an extra. We had the same with Reeves, ran around a lot, but often not affecting the game enough. Pythagorean, Bromley back 3, the best in the National League. Possibly as individuals, Pythagorean. I think if you were going to say who is the best defensive unit in the National League, for me, there's only one. And I doubt many of us can even name one of their players. It's got to be the Boreham Wood back line. You look at the number of goals they've conceded in the National League, and it's about 8 or 9 less than anyone else, and, they shut out Bournemouth and all of that. That's not down to luck.
Same group of players playing week in, week out, know exactly what the job is, no fancy frills, and that's make it very difficult to score against them.
Knowing your jobs. We talk about a lot of our great individual players. What about, debate, Les, individual brilliance, flair, talent against the sum of the parts, i.e., Sutton went up last year, didn't they? And we can just about remember the talented player they had on loan from Millwall and Rob Milsom, and I doubt we could name virtually any other player that got promotion last season with Sutton.
Well, I think that falls in line with, the seasons that we've been in the National League. Barrow, were they anything special? They did a job. Harrogate, and each of them have gone up into the higher level and been able to compete in there. Hartlepool, I didn't think they were anything spectacular, brilliant, all doing a job. Dave Challoner's left them, gone to Stockport. It's interesting that Rooney, supposedly a great midfield player in Stockport's middle, he's opted to leave and go to Barrow. So sounds very much to me like they probably changed their tactics and gone long ball and knocked it into the box and getting support, and they've cut out playing football in the middle. I don't know that, but that's much how they played up at Hartlepool. Effective football, isn't it? That's that. The teams that have gone up, that's what they've done. Let's hope that what we're trying to do, the model that we have, and I don't think we're far off being a very, very good team. We just need we need a little bit more of the mentality that Eli showed against Barnet in all of the players to let's get the game won and then play some nice football as well. Do you know what I mean? Whenever you watch us, whether it's after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 35 minutes, or 65 minutes, if you just walked in the stand, sat down, you would say Notts County's winning this game.
Yeah.
That's the feel, the way that we're in cruise control, and you know what I mean. And
I do.
Sometimes I wish we could just show that. What we showed against Barnet, we came out the blocks and we really got into them. Kyle had a good chance, didn't he? When he shot over just before we scored. You know, we could have got a few. We got 6, and there could have been more goals that night. And a lot of that was, I think, the desire. And Ian had talked about that before the game, that we're going to get right into these. We're going to start like on the front foot, and it showed to me. So we just need to see a bit more of that for me.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you raised, that, you know, if you ever come in and watch 5 minutes of the game, you think Notts are in control, irrespective of knowing the actual scoreline. Yeah. I think that's very true. I mean, Grimsby second half apart. I mean, I think one of the interesting things is you know before every game that Notts will have the lion's share of possession, irrespective of who we are playing.
Yeah,
Dover or Stockport will have the balance of possession, but you can't say with the same degree of clarity and confidence that we'll win the game. And I think sometimes it's that translation, isn't it? I thought it was an interesting interview from Carl Cameron after Grimsby, and the club have responded very well. But he spoke, didn't he, about streetwise concession from set pieces. And this is, you know, Pythagorean, one or two other people have mentioned this. These, on the one hand, you can say they're small parts because it's a component of the game. But are those sorts of things the difference between being 8th and being 2nd or 3rd?
Well, I think so. The two go hand in hand, the desire with the ability. But the desire always has to come first for me, to push you over the line into getting that game won, and then the other can come in as well. But we've had some fantastic games this season. Now it's a very fine balancing act. But the biggest issue to me this season has been that store when we were on a real run. We were winning and winning well, and I thought we're kicking on here. We're going to go up there and get to the top of the league, very much like Stockport. But we got the rough end of the wedge with the matches called off. They kicked on, and unfortunately it knocked us back. But still plenty of time left.
Absolutely. Lee Brearley, consistency will get you out the league, not the best side. Chris Gosling, we concede goals when we get sloppy ourselves more than getting torn apart. Concentration is key. Pythagorean, still fear the ball into our box and our ability to deal with it. What else have we got? 80 Clark. Yeah, Gary, your holding midfielders have to read the game and supply the cover. Wayne Wilkins, you mentioned Andy Woodman and Bromley being like him. Although IB is a nice guy, being a nice guy doesn't win you battles when the going gets tough. Gary Wardle, Wayne, but our team reflects the owners and IB. Look, there isn't a right or a wrong way to this. We're kind of just debating, as we do on this show, in a rational way, okay, rather than, you know, Notts County Madden or the other and the anonymous numpties on social media out there. This is a forum from which we can debate, and there are pros, cons. There isn't necessarily a right way or a wrong way. You know, on a purely personal level, I'm probably different to some of the supporters. I judge everything totally by getting out of this league as quickly as we possibly can. And if we go up, I don't care how we play, not worried. For me, promotion is the be all and end all of the season. For others, and many people have said it, you know, they think that the style of football at the moment is more entertaining than it has been for several seasons. And they kind of want to get out. Perhaps it is not the be all and end all for that type of supporter. No one's right, no one's wrong. These are just debating points. Les, we're coming towards the end of the show. I guess, and we're going to work on the basis this game is taking place. Dover, because that's kind of the game we're previewing at the minute. Dover. It's clearly a banana skin. I think they've won one game all season. We've often spoken about games in hand. One or two other teams are playing tomorrow. For you, is this not a 100% must-win game? Is this something that anything other than 3 points tomorrow has to be viewed as a very poor result? You don't normally say that about an away game, do you?
No, we can't say that. I mean, Dover haven't been playing so well this season. I know they got a win last week. We've got to go out there and we've got to do our job. And by the way, we've just talked about a desire to win. And you watch Liverpool, you watch Manchester City. They win their matches quite comfortably by just passing the ball around. So, I hope we can get to that level. That would be fantastic. But no, we've got to go out there and we've got to do a job. And I think if we do the job, there's a very good chance we get 3 points. I would hate to see us lose tomorrow night, and I can't see that happening. The most important thing is we're tuned in, we're on it, that Kyle Cameron is playing the role as captain, that if he's seen things that aren't right, that he's getting onto them and he's getting everybody at it, and if right from the early stages we're on the ball, then I think we'll certainly do well. The poor results come when you're not at it and people accept it and just carry on playing and then it gets untidy. We've got to pass the ball about crisply and get on the front foot. Cal Roberts looks to me like he's back on song again. He came on Saturday and did a good job. He's looked like the Cal that we know of the past with the last couple of games. Ruben started to touch form a little as well, and so there isn't no reason why we can't score goals tomorrow night. So no, I'm thinking very positive.
Kane Porter, a win is a must versus Dover. A draw is poor. Gary Wardle, it's a must win. Only Chesterfield have only got a draw there. Stockport, Boreham Wood, Bromley, Wrexham, Halifax all won. Wayne Wilkins, that's why we don't do well against physical sides. Saying that, taking the opportunities we create before allowing games to get into physical stalemates changes the whole outlook of those games. I think actually we dropped to 9th, didn't we, as a result of at the weekend. You've mentioned already the way it fell in December. I'm a big one for everything in life, Les. Responsibility and accountability. And clearly, we as a club have faced a lot of challenges this season. And I would stress here, the players and the manager have not made any excuses, but some of our supporter base kind of give an impression that we have been the most hard done by team in the world of football ever for the past 100 years. I think if you look, every team in and around this promotion race have had their own different set of challenges. But Boreham Wood have had cup runs going on a lot longer than we've had them. In the FA Cup, still in them. You can look, and Boreham Wood, as a result, have played fewer games than anyone. You can talk about Bromley almost losing their manager, Andy Woodman, when he was tapped up by Gillingham, but chose not to go. You can talk about Chesterfield with what happened with James Rowe, whether that is self-inflicted or not. They've had to change the manager. All the clubs, Stockport sacked their manager, shortly after we beat them. So every club's kind of had its own challenges. I'm hoping now that, everyone knows what needs to be done. We're kind of, we've got a game or two in hand, but let's be realistic here. 9th, for me, isn't acceptable. It is below par. It is below par. So what you now want to see is that run of games winning 4, 5, 6 on the spin, because being realistic, we're going to need to do that just to guarantee somewhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's what the squad of players, and that's what the manager and Mike Dorr will be working at on the training ground. They're getting that positive mental feeling going, working on how they're going to do that. As I say, I don't think that any of those players will be travelling tomorrow with anything other than the mind that they want to go out and win that match. And strange things happen at times, but if you're asking me to put a forecast on tomorrow's game, I would say that we're going to win the game. That's how I feel about them just now. Having watched the game on Saturday with 7 new faces coming in, and you've got another 7 lads who played the game against Barnet. They weren't there on Saturday. They must be itching to get out there and play. And yeah, I think the club is in a very good place to kick on and get results again.
Stuart Dakin, we lost Dover last season before their results were expunged. That seems a long time ago now, doesn't it? We need to earn the right, show desire, and manage the pitch. Gary Wardle, Wayne, but until recently, by playing our possession-based football, we have been slow to kill games off. Chris Gosling, points per game, we are 6th. When the league is decided on points per game, Chris, well, actually it is, isn't it? It's decided on points per game after everyone's played their last game of the season, I suppose you would argue. We need a strong finish to February. Gary Wardle, do remember it could be tight tomorrow with them all behind the ball. Boreham Wood, Bromley, Wrexham all only won 1-0. And I think that kind of puts things into perspective, doesn't it? When you're playing at a professional level football, you don't have any right to go and walk over anybody. A.D. Clark, the season will go right to the wire. Need to go on a massive run of wins to prove Martin Allen wrong. Yeah, Martin didn't fancy our chances too much when he was on the show last week. Kane Porter, do you still have faith in Ian Birchinall? I think the answer that we'd all say is yes. For whatever reason, the change was made mid-season last year. I don't think it actually helped matters. And clearly, Ian being at this club gives us the best chance of going up this season, I would say. Wayne Wilkins, we concede, created plenty, scored enough, conceded too many. How many 1 or 2 nillers we had? No one actually, when I asked the question, Les, a week or two ago, said how many 89th, 90th minute winners in the league have we scored this year? Because I can remember, as in the winning goal, I can remember Grimsby, but I can't remember too many others, and no one could come up with one. I'm guessing under the Cyril era, you used to bang a few in the 90th minute, and I know under even teams like with Sam Allardyce in that run and Steve Cottrell, we used to nick a lot of games late on, didn't we?
No, I'm not too familiar with that sort of knowledge. We battled to the end. I know last year we scored a few late goals, but we've been conceding a few late goals this year, haven't we? Which hasn't been good, particularly against Grimsby. But at the same time, you've seen virtually all the games this season, if not all of them. How many is it that we've lost? 7?
I think we lost 6 in the league. Is it 6
in the league? And of those 6, do you think we deserve to win all 6? To lose all 6 games, or have you come away thinking, have we lost those games? And it's very, very fine, isn't it?
Well, Halifax certainly comes into the category of how on earth. And I didn't see that one because I was stuck in Sicily.
Well, I was there. I left.
That's the obvious one.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue it's an interesting one, Les. Your thoughts, please. Whack them in. Of the games we have lost this season, what do you think? Which games do you think we have deserved to lose? And I'm going through the losses. I'd possibly say we deserve to lose at Bromley. I think we had a good first half, first 30 minutes. I don't think you can say we played well in the first half in the sense we'd gone in at half time losing 1-0, conceding from a set piece a minute before half time. And I thought second half, I thought Bromley did more than enough. I'm just trying to think of our other defeats, to be honest with you.
Woking at home.
You see, I
I
think
drove
we
away
deserve.
from that game not knowing what had happened. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, but I know when Richard and all the other guys produce all their stats, they will make a compelling argument to say it's a travesty. Well, for me, it's not a travesty if you let 4 goals in the last 20 minutes of a game. You deserve what do you deserve? You deserve nothing, don't you? Don't matter if you've had 98% possession for 70 minutes and you let 4 goals in the last 20. Don't you deserve to lose?
Yeah, but where I'm coming from, that game should have been over before the last 20 minutes.
Right, that's a different argument.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand what
I'm
you're
saying
saying.
a lot of the games that I've seen, I'm thinking we should never have lost that. We have lost it and deservedly, but we shouldn't have done. And I think that's a mental thing as well. Going back to probably what we were talking about earlier on about the positivity and getting games won. Where we're playing some nice football and it's 0-0 and or maybe losing by a goal. We need to get on the front foot a bit more. But I don't think we've been outplayed too many times this season, and you're coming away saying, well, they were a far better team than us today. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I agree with that, Les. And this, but equally, I think sometimes this whole balance of possession, I think, can lead us to an unbalanced superiority complex, because the game isn't necessarily about winning the lion's share of possession, is it? It's if you win the lion's share of possession and convert that into goals and preserve clean sheets, absolutely brilliant, But Neil Warnock wouldn't necessarily play to dominate possession, would he?
No. And I think if you did an analysis of our season so far, I think we would be top of the league in quality goals scored. We score a lot of Premiership style goals.
Yeah.
And I think we may be down at the bottom of the league and daft goals conceded.
Yeah. I'm just at this moment in time, Les, getting the mascot cat for the Magpie Circle to attack the cuckoo clock.
That was it.
If there's one thing you can be guaranteed when Leslie's on the show, so is the cuckoo clock. So is the cuckoo clock. Go on, Les. Sorry, I rudely interrupted you.
I forgot what we were talking about, to be honest.
Hey, I tell you what a great question from you, though, Les. What a great question from you about, of the 6, 7, 8 that we've lost. What did we think of those losses? Here we go. There's loads coming in now. I've got to excuse me for scrolling back up. Hang on, let's get to where they all come in. Pythagorean Warnock's team, he used to batter teams in the last 10 minutes. He was very good at a late winner, was Neil, wasn't he? Chris Warnock, nice guy, but a demon on the touchline. That's the mentality we need. Right, okay, in terms of where we lost and deserved to lose, Gary Wardle says Eastleigh. Chris Gosling says deserved to lose all of them. Kane Porter, we deserved to lose at Bromley. Chris Gosling, Halifax was a lesson in game management. Gary Wardle, I'd forgotten it. I'd erased this from my memory banks. Altrincham, yeah, it was a shocker. It was a shocker. I'd argue Eastleigh was worse, if I'm honest with you. I'd argue Eastleigh was slightly worse. Gary Wardle lost away, Bromley, Halifax, Altrincham and Eastleigh. Jurgen Halligan, we've had 8 clean sheets this season. Stuart Dakin deserved to lose at home to Grimsby. We stopped playing after 30 minutes. Lost at home to Woking and Grimsby, says Gary Wardle. Wayne Wilkins, Altrincham deserved to lose, should have beat Halifax, should have beat Woking, has had all the momentum when we should have scored 3 or 4, deserved to lose against Bromley, Grimsby and Eastleigh. Wayne Wilkins, momentum versus passion. The debate, Catherine Simkis, Eastleigh, RM, the last 6 times we have lost is more about how bad we've played rather than how well the opposition has played. Gary Wardle, we almost always had 8 players and 3 flair. Sometimes not so reliant on finding 8 flair with only 3 players. Easily we never turned up, says Shane Walker. Very poor effort from all of them. Gary Wardle, compared to Sutton, 8 solids and 3 flair is better than 3 solids and 8 flair. Chris Gosling just posted, so in summary, we did deserve to lose all of them. By the same token, I don't think we've had many lucky wins. What do you make of all of that, Les, as we're wrapping up for the evening?
Yeah, it's nice listening to people's opinions. Everybody goes to a football game, they have a look, and they see it one way or they see it another way, and that's the show is so successful. You're getting plenty of good feedback. I didn't go to Eastleigh. I've spoke to the chief exec. He thought we didn't play very well and deserved to lose that day. I went to Altrincham. That's when we'd lost the goalkeeper, 3 centre halves, and it had a massive effect on us that day. I felt gobsmacked that we lost at Halifax. Woking, how that game went. Grimsby game, that should have been for me done at half time. Then conceded, they were the better team second half. But it's so far I haven't seen us outplayed and you've come away, well, they really stuffed us today. That sort of, like Barnet will have gone away on Tuesday and said, well, we've got stuff today, haven't we? It's very seldom do we come away where you've hit on it and said we've always have the lion's share of possession. Somehow we've got to convert that possession into a mentality that wins us a game as well with it. And that is important. And I know that's what Ian's working at as well with the lads.
That's very well put, Les. And I think also, if we think back to Boreham Wood, I was down for that one. And if you looked at that 90 minutes in isolation, you would say, Notts are a far better bet to last the season, to collect more points in a season. Went one up, dominating possession, didn't win the game. Boreham Wood found a way back, get a point. And like you just said there, I think it is converting this possession, changing a mentality to that game is won. You've gone 1-0 up away at Boreham Wood, right? Hang on, lads. That's it. Doors are shut. There is no way they are scoring now. No way in a million years. We go out with the 3 points. But we didn't. At this moment in time, even on points per game, Chris Gosling, that you're trumpeting earlier, Boreham Wood are even further ahead of us because they got a game in hand and are 4 points ahead of us. And that's not to say they're going to finish above us, clearly. Possession itself is not going to get us promotion, is it? That is not going to get us promotion on its own. No. But I do maintain, and I wonder if Stockport have almost gone a little bit early, with this remarkable run. Jimmy was a master at this, wasn't he? And Neil. The really strong run starts February time, and of the last 15, 20 games, you only lose 1 or 2,
Well, I've said it before. It's like the horse race coming around the final bend is February moving into March, and you're on the home straight. And nothing is like winning football matches. You're on a high. You don't believe that you can lose, and it's far better that way than the other way when you can't see where a win's coming from. But as I say, we've got 2 now. We've got a good chance tomorrow to make it 3, and then a home match on Saturday. It's a good week to go sort of 4 wins, isn't it? So that has to be the mentality, especially coming up to March when we've got so many big games coming up.
Yeah. Anyway, you're so you will be listening to the radio tomorrow. You're not having a second. It's 2 trips with Acco's bus tours in space of 4 days too much for you, Les?
Leaving at 1 in the afternoon and getting back at 2:30, 3 in the morning. I think that's it's not for me. Sorry, Paul. And I'll be wishing the lads all the best. And yeah, I'll be listening on the radio, but it's a little bit too far to go.
You can keep down with me in the Dover Travel Lodge, Les. Mind you, I'm just hoping the first requirement of all this is that the game's on, innit? That's the first requirement, you know. So let's just keep an eye out on social media tomorrow and just hope. I did read somewhere. Was it on Facebook or one of the Knots Facebook? Tim Watchorn or something. He's gone down this morning. He's already in Dover. I don't know. He's got relatives. I mean, it strikes me as a tad early to go for a game on Monday morning for a game on Tuesday night. But anyway, I know it's a long way.
Yeah. Am I able just to put out a little advert? I've had Lynn Lawson.
Of course.
We have in the early part of March, I don't have the date with me, the Lifeline Quiz Night.
Yes.
And I'm making my debut as quizmaster.
Oh.
I'm filling in for Colin, who's done it for the past 30 years. And we've got just over 20 teams so far. I think Lynn's looking for a few more teams. And she says, could I ask 1 or 2 of the Magpie Circle viewers to see if there's any interest there? And if there is, please give her a call and, try and get a couple more teams in there.
Absolutely. You could probably go online or just see Lynn in the club shop. More the merrier. I'm sure there's some Notts County quiz bandits. Is there the same team win it every year, Les? Is there something, a couple of these superstar teams?
My experience of the past, there has been a couple of teams that like to go around and win, but there are plenty of Notts supporters in there, and there's always a round on Notts questions, some very good historic questions. There's the usual visual questions. It's a good fun night, and the manager's there and the players, so it's always a good atmosphere. So I hope to make it interesting as well, like Colin used to. So we should. It's pie and peas for a fiver as well as the quiz, and there's some nice prizes. You win an executive box to watch a game, and as well as a couple of others. So yeah, it's a good night. So if anybody's interested, get in touch with Lynn in the club shop, and she'll be able to sort you out.
And on a really positive note to finish, Shane Walker says it won't be on. This is Dover. It's chucking it down overnight, plus high winds. And I don't know whether you're in Nottingham or Dover, Shane, but we shall find out tomorrow, won't we? Thank you very much indeed for dialing in, watching, listening, however you're accessing the show. Thanks as always. Lots of debate, lots of comments, all done in a proper, structured, rational manner, which is what we want. Les, thank you as always for taking the time and your cuckoo clock to give us some jewels of information, first-hand experience. We look forward to seeing you again, I'm sure, in the not too distant future. Thank you, everyone. Good night, safe travels, and catch up with you soon. Bye for now.